Welcome to The Explainer. So today, we're digging into a really fascinating and, believe it or not, super common problem at the very heart of local government. It's a structural issue that puts one key person in a nearly impossible spot. And it really makes you wonder, how does this affect how our cities are actually run?
Okay, let's just jump right in with a question that seems simple, but oh boy. The answer is anything but. When a government lawyer shows up for work, who is their actual client? Are they working for the elected city council, the people who set the big picture vision? Or are they working for the city manager and the staff, the folks who handle the day-to-day grind?
You see, the thing is, the law often says this attorney has to advise both of them. On one side, you've got the policymakers, the elected council. On the other, the professional administrators who have to make it all happen. And, you guessed it, what these two groups want can often be completely at odds. Now, on paper, their loyalty isn't to the mayor or to some council member they like. Officially, their client is this abstract idea, the government entity itself, the city as a whole. But, what happens when the actual people leading that city are in a total standoff? And that, right there, is where things get really messy. This whole situation is so confusing that legal experts have actually come up with different models just to try and make sense of it. They're all trying to answer that one big question: who is the real client? So let's take a look, because this really shows you how deep the rabbit hole goes.
So first up, you've got the public interest model. Sounds great, right? The lawyer works for the public, but it falls apart almost immediately. Why? Well, because what is the public interest? Your idea of it is probably different from mine and different from your neighbor's. It basically forces the attorney to guess, or worse, just push their own idea of what's best.
Okay, model number 2 says the client is the entire government. It's a little more specific, but it hits a similar wall. Think about it. The council and the mayor's office are designed to be a check on each other's power. Their goals are often supposed to conflict. So treating them as one big happy client is, well, it's pretty much impossible.
All right, so the last one, and this is the model most folks in the legal world kind of lean toward, is that the client is the specific agency that hired the lawyer. And that's fine if you're, say, a lawyer just for the Parks Department. But for a city attorney, their whole job is to serve two bosses with equal power, the council and the administration. So the model breaks down, and we're right back where we started.
And this is where it gets really interesting, because now we're moving out of legal theory and into human psychology. Even if an attorney is trying with all their might to be neutral, the simple reality of their workday can start to secretly skew their advice.
Look, everybody agrees that the goal is trust and respect. Of course it is, but what we're about to see is how the daily routine of the job itself can chip away at that trust and create the feeling of bias, even when nobody means for it to happen.
It all comes down to something called proximity bias, and it's just human nature, really. It's this idea that we naturally tend to favor the perspectives of the people we're physically around all the time, the ones we talk to every single day. It's just how our brains are wired.
And here's where it all clicks into place. A city attorney is usually in City Hall, working shoulder to shoulder with the city manager and their team. They're solving problems together every day. But the council members? They might only see them in a formal meeting once every couple of weeks. Over time, that attorney can't help but start seeing things from the administration's point of view. And pretty soon the council starts to wonder, hey, whose side is our lawyer really on?
All right, so if the problem is basically baked right into the system, how in the world do you fix it? Well, the good news is cities aren't just shrugging their shoulders. They're actually trying to find real, workable solutions.
Yeah, this isn't just some academic debate. Real cities, right now, are trying to fix this. They're literally rewriting their city charters, their foundational documents, to try and design a system that avoids these conflicts before they can blow up and stop progress.
Okay, so there are basically 3 main strategies cities are trying out. And as you can see, each one has some major trade-offs. You can give the council their own full-time lawyer, you can hire outside help when you need it, or you can try to build what's called an ethical wall inside the law department. Every option is a different balance of cost, speed, and political headache.
So let's take a trip down to Tampa, Florida, to see how they handled it. They took the most direct route possible. The voters actually changed the city charter to give the city council the power to hire its very own, totally separate lawyer. That way, when a conflict with the mayor comes up, the council has its own independent advice from day one.
But, and there's always a but, right? It's not a silver bullet. Some folks there worried that this just creates a more divided government. The fear is that instead of one legal team trying to unify the city, you suddenly have two legal teams potentially fighting each other. It creates this sense of having two masters trying to run the city.
And what about that other option, just hiring outside lawyers when you need them? Well, it can get really expensive really fast. Just look at Los Angeles. In only 2 years, their bill for outside counsel shot up from just under $19 million to $30 million. That's not chump change. That's a huge, unpredictable hit to the city budget.
So we've been deep in the legal and ethical weeds here, but let's pull back. Why does any of this really matter? Why should you or I actually care about this internal government drama? Well, it matters because this isn't just some legal squabble. It gets right to the heart of how our government is supposed to work, that fundamental system of checks and balances. If a city council can't get clear, unbiased legal advice, its power to keep an eye on the administration gets weaker. And that affects everything from the city budget to whether the government is being transparent with us.
And in the end, this whole dilemma leaves us with a really tough question about what we want from our local governments. What's more important? Do we want a government that feels unified and efficient, even if its lawyer has conflicting duties? Or is it better to guarantee that our elected officials have truly independent oversight, even if that creates more friction and costs more money? There really is no easy answer.